To my cell phone. Can everybody, hopefully everybody can hear me. We've got a little over 200 participants in this afternoon's first virtual training that's going to be delivered by the Office of Health and Safety. Quick background on myself before we get into the nitty gritty of the IIPP and HazCom training. My name is Veronica Vargas. I am an industrial hygienist with the Health and Safety unit here. I've got approximately 24 years of state service under my belt, but outside of that, I've also worked in the private sector. One of my very first jobs was age 16. I was a ride operator over at Funderland. So for those folks that are from Sacramento and are familiar with the Land Park area, I was operating those rides over there for the kiddies. So safety was very near and dear to me at a very young age. And so as such, I've pursued that career, and here I am with the water board. So anyways, we're going to get going, and my senior, Lance Lister, is going to be giving the HazCom portion of the training. So first part of it is the Injury and Illness Prevention Program. And again, we've got a lot of ground to cover. So but since this is the first time we're doing this virtually, please just, anything that you can take away from this training today is something. So take note. And as I said a few minutes ago, please keep your microphones on mute because we can hear anything that's taking place outside of this training. Okay. Hope everything, and first and foremost, hope all of your families and yourselves are doing well considering our current situation nationally. And hopefully we'll all be able to go back to the office one day, or maybe not. Just depends. So, okay, guys, with that being said, last thing, any questions and answers, there's a question and chat box. Go ahead and plug in your questions. We will respond to those at the end of the training because, again, we've got a lot of ground to cover, so we want to ensure that everything is covered. But please do not hesitate to enter those questions into that Q&A box, okay? That being said, let's see here. Presenters, again, we kind of went through this, Lance Lister and myself. We are the sole two industrial hygienists for the department. We support approximately 2,400 people. So we cover a lot of ground just with two of us. And it's a very busy shop just by default, having only one staff. So again, it's Lance and myself. And a reminder to everybody as well, please complete that sign-in sheet. Otherwise, you will not receive credit for this class, okay? Part one, again, is the IIPP. And here's some of the objectives, just an overview. We're going to provide you an overview of the IIPP. And specifically, what is your role? Whether it's a supervisor, manager, rank and file, everybody plays an intricate, important role in the IIPP. For it to be an effective program, it's everybody has to actually put the IIPP into practice at your workplace. And so, that determines the effectiveness of your workplace health and safety program. Code of Safe Practices, which is integrated, specific to operations from a department, and then resources. And again, your resources are pretty much here, Lance and myself. But you also have other resources that we'll get into. So the IIPP has been prepared by the Health and Safety Unit in accordance with the California Code of Regulations, Title 8, Section 3203. So we don't have a choice. If you're an employer and you're going to have to establish and implement an effective IIPP. In other words, that is pretty much the what we need to adhere to, we need to comply with. The California Code of Regulations, you shall, State Water Resources Control Board, implement an effective injury and illness prevention program. There's no way around that, okay? And it's to benefit and safeguard the health and safety of our employees when it's all said and done. So a little bit more, this is, a little bit textbook stuff, but again, it requires every employer to develop and implement an effective IPP. And what it does, guys, is it's to improve the safety and health of your workplace and reduces also the cost by good management and employee involvement. So everybody plays an intricate role here, everybody, in order for, again, to be effective, okay? And we're doing pretty well at the water boards overall with, injury and illnesses and so forth. So, and it shows in our stats through the workers' comp arena. So state water safety culture, what is it? It's a commitment. It's a commitment by everybody. It's a commitment by each of you that are teleworking at home. It's a commitment from management, folks that are going into the office, even rank and file. I'm going into the office a couple of days of the week, but it's a commitment when I'm there at the office, when I'm here at home, which lends itself to also empowerment. If we're committed to our injury and illness prevention program, there's a sense of empowerment. We feel good about what we're doing. We're, identifying hazards. What can we improve? How can I help my colleagues look at risk factors? And so we want to make sure that we empower our people as well. And all of that should be integrated into safety considerations overall, just organizational decisions that are made. So it really starts from the top, and we have that support from the top. And it's been great. It's been great at the water boards. Again, with Lance and I are very fortunate that we do. It starts from the top, and we are empowered when it comes to the safety and working culture there at the water boards. So where are we? The WATERNET. Everybody should be familiar with the WATERNET itself. And if you're not, do get familiar with it. We are located under the Division of Administrative Services office. Okay, so right here, if everybody can see my cursor, it's going to go right there. And let me just do this. So right there, boom, that little icon, that little hand there, little finger pointing. So we're under, again, the Division of Administrative Services, okay, under the WATERNET. So when you launch that, this should open up, and bam, there we are. So you would get your scroll, your cursor, and go over to the Division of Health and Safety. And there we are, folks. There we are. We have a lot of good information out there, so we encourage you to please visit our website and take advantage. Again, you play an intricate and important role here, so it's important you guys are familiar with what we need to do as an organization. This is just a little bit more. Health and safety contacts, just an FYI, that needs to be updated here. That's the only slide that actually needs to be updated. Lance, again, he's our senior IH, and then Kent, Bill, and Mike. Actually, Kent is retired, Bill's retired, and Mike has moved on. He's now a safety engineer. But that, again, is just our resources, and that will be updated. Particularly, I want you to pay attention here. The IIPP is under the policies and guidelines. It's a 43-page document. This is it right here, Injury and Illness Prevention Program. It's a 43-page document. We don't need you to read everything, but if you kind of skim through the first, 2 to 5 pages in the beginning, that would be great. It gives you an idea of what it is. Again, every employer needs to have one of these in place. This is the water boards, okay? This is what we adhere to. You also want to look at page 10 of your IIPP. It starts breaking down those roles, those individual roles and responsibilities, whether you're a supervisor, whether you're a manager, whether you're an employee, whether you're a safety coordinator, everybody has a role. So starting on page 10 is really where it's, you want to kind of highlight that area, flag it, and say, okay, I remember what Veronica said, page 10. Let me read the first 5 pages of this 43-page document, but page 10 is really where it starts the identifying the roles and responsibilities of everybody. There are 8 elements that we're going to quickly go over in your injury and illness prevention program. Their responsibilities, which we'll break down, their compliance, right? We kind of already said the California Code of Regs says, hey, employer, you will do this. So that's what we will do. Communication, how are we communicating this information to our people? Hazard assessments, incident investigation, hazard correction, training instruction, which you guys are receiving today. Oops. Record keeping. So those are basically those 8 elements of your injury and illness prevention program. Those are it, okay? And we did add something else called the Code of Safe Practices, which is very specific to the operations of your department. Everybody specializes in something, right? So for example, Caltrans, what do? They maintain the highways and freeways, right, of California, mobility up and down California. What do we do at the water boards? So it's specific to what we do here at the water boards, code of safe practices, and we'll get into that a little bit more. Responsibilities, supervisors, managers, employees, those rank and file. Again, Division of Administrative Services, Health and Safety Unit. Each of us play a very important role for this program to be effective. Okay, so just because we're there, you know, we have to, again, carry out those responsibilities, because there's consequences if we don't, unfortunately. So we're going to get into that in a minute. Compliance. There's a lot of good stuff here on this page, and I just want to hit on a few of them. Compliance, again, complying with the safe and healthy health policies and procedures. Bullet number 2 there. That health and policies and procedures is on our WATERNET as well, right? Communicate safety and health policies and procedures and promote a safe work culture. Ideally, at the end of the day, guys, we want our people to get home safely, to their friends, to their families, to their loved ones, to their pets, just to get home, to maybe nobody in particular. But at the end of the day, it's very important that we're complying, okay? Because when you hang your hat up and you're clocking out, you know, if you've done everything you could do in good faith and goodwill, you know, we're going to see you the next day. Okay, that's the goal. You're going to participate in all training and use PPE when required. You're going to be provided that PPE and training. This is one of the trainings. You guys are now, you know, you're meeting that minimum requirement, that requirement that you need to meet as a supervisor, as a manager, as a rank and file employee. You're taking this training. Request information and learn how to safely perform assigned tasks. Whenever in doubt, you know, we want to ensure that our people are empowered, that they feel comfortable saying, hey, you know what? I'm not too comfortable performing this. Whether it's your first day on the job or whether it's you're a seasoned vet, it doesn't matter. If there is something that is now put into place, something that's introduced, we want to make sure that you folks are, you know, equipped to carry that performed new assigned task out, okay? You're responsible for warning your coworkers of any hazards or reporting unsafe and health conditions to the manager and supervisor. You have an obligation, guys, to report those hazards, okay? Because again, we want to take care of those swiftly and quickly. Participate in incident investigations, safety inspections, report all work-related injuries and illnesses, okay? And when it's all said and done, you know, discipline employees who do not comply with safety and health policies and procedures. If you are just, you know, being willfully disobedient and not adhering to these things, there's consequences for that. There's consequences for that. And the water boards does take this stuff very seriously, okay? And we trust that all of our employees under the water boards will continue to do that. Communication, open two-way communication. This is one of the other elements, second element to the IIPP, open two-way communication, and that between management, employees on health and safety issues are essential. You know, the ability to communicate effectively is critical, folks. So it's important that if there is something that you feel that needs to be addressed, that you feel comfortable, bring it to the attention of your manager, supervisor, or you get on the horn or email and you shoot me an email as well as to Lance, or you send it, you know, give us a call. Give us a call. But we have to keep that line of communications open for that, again, for this program to be effective. We can't push things under the rug and just ignore it. So this quick graph here, again, rank and file employees, they can communicate phone calls or emails to health and safety, to their supervisors, to the safety coordinators, their safety coordinators out there in the regions and such. So again, if for whatever reason you don't feel comfortable communicating to your supervisor or manager, well, then you send an email to Lance or you call us. There shouldn't be any reason, but you know, there are instances where, hey, employees do not completely feel comfortable with that option. Well, then give your safety coordinator a call. Give Lance and I a call or shoot us an email. Because when it's all said and done, if you can see those arrows, who does all fall back on? Health and safety. We are that foundation. We're here to help you, guide you, and, you know, please feel comfortable and confident to always reach out to us and communicate any type of issue. Hazard assessments. What a hazard assessment is, folks, is identifying and correcting hazards. All employees are encouraged to identify and report safety hazards to immediate supervisor or manager. Again, we don't want to dismiss anything. We don't want to ignore anything. It can be something as simple as a tear in your carpet at the work site, right, in an office setting, and everybody's just kind of been walking around it. You know, maybe there's multiple cords hanging there around your coffee station, whatever it may be, and people have ignored it because it hasn't been an issue. And as we always say in safety, it's not a problem till it's a problem. We need to bring those issues to the attention of somebody, okay, and get those addressed. Safety inspections. Lance and I are out there performing annual safety inspections throughout the entire department. We're up and down the state. Now, right now, obviously, because of what's taking place, those have been placed on hold, but we just got done wrapping up our 2019 safety inspections. And so what follows is a report that identifies deficiencies in those offices that Lance and I have had gone out to perform safety inspections. And then those deficiencies need to be corrected either immediately or they have a turnaround time. Okay, so all of that, those things are deficiencies or hazards are identified on our report, and the region gets those, and we say, okay, let's get this corrected, and let's move on. Managers and supervisors need to ensure hazards are evaluated and properly abated in a timely manner. That can be in a form of, again, hey, we've got Veronica's report, we've got Lance's report. Okay, what do we need to do, right? So again, that communication is ongoing. You, again, can report existing or potentially hazardous conditions or unsafe work practices during safety meetings, okay, to any supervisor, manager, or again, shoot me and Lance an email, give us a call. We're always available, and if we're not immediately available, we will get back to you. We will get back to you. Again, when we were in the office, again, it's just Lance and I, so it might take a day or two, but we will get back to you. And if we don't, please hound us and say, hey guys, did you forget about me? Just tap us friendly on the shoulder and let us know. So we want to make sure that we address any issues. So those are, again, identifying and correcting those hazards as swiftly as we can, okay? Depending on what type of hazard it is. Can it wait, or do we need to get on it immediately? Incident investigation. This, again, is an element of your IIPP. When an incident is an unplanned event which results in an injury, illness, or property damage, okay? It includes near-miss events that did not result in an accident, injury, illness, or damage, but had the potential to do so. So we didn't trip over that carpet this time, or, you know, we were on the field and you know, we were taking water sampling, and we didn't have the appropriate, you know, PP on, and we didn't the cars that were passing us on the freeway, you know, overlooked us this time. But again, we have to make sure that there are measures in place so we don't have these instances where it can turn into an accident or an injury or an illness, right? Or that there's damage to either ourselves, first and foremost, or to property and so forth. So again, we all have to play a role here to ensure every measures are put in place so that we, again, at the end of the day, go home safely. Incidents are reported and investigated to implement procedures to reduce the likelihood of future occurrences. What did we do? What could we have done better? Let's look at this. Let's take a look at this. What can we do better from this reoccurring in the future? When an incident occurs, it's the employee's responsibility. You guys are going to hear this a lot. It's your responsibility. Yes, it is, guys. It's my responsibility. It's Lance's responsibility. It's our responsibility to immediately report the incident to our supervisor. Employees that witness the incident have the responsibility to report. All affected employees and witnesses, must participate within the investigation. So if you're ever called as a witness to an incident, okay, you're obligated to participate. You don't have a choice, guys. You can't say, well, yes, I did, but I really don't want to say anything. No, we are obligated to come forth, and an investigation will take place. And you just pretty much telling what you saw, right? It's just as you would in the public. public situation. So again, you're going to come forth, tell a side of the story, and then they're done with that, and then we move on. But you have to participate in that incident investigation. Supervisors, put your ears on, folks. Supervisor managers are responsible for the following: referring the employee to level medical attention required for a situation. If there's a situation that has, that requires any type of medical attention, you supervisor need to notify workers' compensation immediately of that injury or illness, okay? So we have Laura Krenzler within the department. She's our workers' comp contact. She's great. So if anything comes up, you have an obligation, big or small, to still notify workers' comp, because as a supervisor, what we don't want to do is deny them the process. You've given them, you referred them out to workers' comp, and that employee will either decide to pursue that benefit or not. Okay, but you as a supervisor manager, you've met your obligation, and we just don't deny them the process. So it's very important to you that the supervisors, take note of that. That, hey, we provided them, this is what happened to Veronica on such and such a date. I provided the workers' comp paperwork. I referred her over to workers' comp, and you've met your obligation. Okay, so you kind of check that box off. I've done that, and of course, and then that's pretty much that. Let's get going. Okay, again, here our supervisors are responsible for the following: when did it happen? On the job accidents. Who? What happened? When did it happen? Where? Why? And how? You guys got to put on your investigator hat and gather all that information: the who, the what, the why, the when, where, and how. Okay. And at the end of the day, once you do that, gather everything together, you say, okay, prevention. Do we need to provide additional training? How can we work on preventing this from happening again? Okay, but those supervisors, managers, it's very important that you document and you're gathering your information. And employees as well, they wear that investigative hat too when they're called in for investigation. The who, what, when, why, and how. That's important. That's kind of just the rule of thumb there to live, and then you can just kind of document on your end. Hazard correction: unsafe or unhealthy work conditions, practices, procedures are corrected in a timely manner based on the severity of the hazards. We kind of already talked about that. Hazard levels range from being imminently dangerous to relatively low risk, okay? Corrective actions or plans must be appropriate for the severity of the hazard and must be documented. Documentation on everything we do, Everything we do. Training and instruction. When do employees receive health and safety training? Maybe when you first came on board, right? Whether you're a scientific aide or environmental scientist or a health and safety guru, first hire that new employee orientation. You get a packet. You should start, your supervisor manager should giving you a training packet or a whole packet that you start going through. There's information in there when you're first hired on with the water boards. Changing job assignments. Anytime there is a change in your job assignment. I've been doing this for 10 years now. There's a change in my job assignment. I need to receive that new training and that instruction, right? New hazards. Whenever new hazards are introduced into our workplace, we deal with that on a daily basis. So we need to provide that training and instruction to our employees. New hazardous substances, processes, procedures of equipment. Okay, which can present potential new hazard in itself. So again, any type of introductory on new hazards or processes, procedures, equipment. I haven't been trained on it, or do I need to be retrained? God, I've been doing this for 20 years. I need to be retrained. I've kind of become compliant on what I do. You know what? Let me tap on my boss's shoulder and say, you know what? I need to kind of be retrained on that. And it's also the obligation of management to say, hey, Veronica's been doing this for 20 years, but you still need to do your refresher, okay? And training instruction, you're getting it today through the IIPP training and your HazCom, which is more specific training. It's more specialized training than HazCom, but Lance is going to go over that. Record keeping, that's the last element of your IIPP. Records must be kept in all formal and informal training, as well as any meeting that has a safety element. Again, document, and throughout, for us that have been working for the state 20 plus years, or for those that are just starting, it's incredibly important that you remember that. Documentation is huge in everything we do, whether it's in our work-specific assignments or anything related to safety. Code of safe practices. I'm going to go over this quickly because we're running out of time. Every employer shall adopt a written code of safe practices which relates to the employee's operations. I kind of mentioned that earlier. And let's just go over some of the examples that the code of safe practices that we receive. And please pay attention because these again are I chose what I'm getting ready to display is because they're the most commonly complained about items that we hear about in health and safety. Examples: report all serious injuries and safe and healthy working conditions immediately to supervisor. I think we've hashed on that quite a bit, but it's another reminder because people don't do it. All water board employees shall conduct their work activity in a deliberate and safe manner. Employees are to wear PPE in all areas requiring it. We get calls, hey, so-and-so, Veronica wasn't wearing a hard hat. She was out there Leviathan mine. You know, they were doing their annual sampling. So why, you know, we get calls, folks. We were getting calls on that kind of stuff. So it's important that we all comply with what we need to. Food and trash are to be properly stored as to not become a nuisance attraction for insects and animals. When we conduct even ergonomic evaluations, as many of you know that Lance and I do that statewide, you know, we go into people's workstations and it's incredible what we have been privy to. A friendly reminder that your workstation is work. It is not your home, you know, so whether it's a collection of cans or whether it's, you know, combustibles such as just an accumulation of paper, we're going to have to call you guys on that because it's a safety hazard. It's a safety concern. You know, recycle, get that paper out of there, get that trash, throw that trash away. You know, there's recycling bins for all that good stuff. Equipment, machinery, and hand tools are to be used for their intended purposes only, right? So we're not going to use something that is, you know, it's a shortcut, it's quick and easy, here it is, it's handy, let me use this tool because it's quick and convenient. No, let's take the time to use the appropriate tools needed for the appropriate job. Substance abuse or other conditions that adversely affect the employee's safety, health, and behavior and are not allowed in the workplace. That speaks for itself. Do not bring field samples into the state vehicles or office areas unless the outside of the container has been cleaned and decontaminated. And especially now what's going on, I mean, there's other measures that are in place because of COVID and so forth. But again, these are just specific to, you know, our operations and a general, you know, snapshot of what we hear about, you know, on an ongoing basis in our shop. Electric cables and cords are to be properly placed and secured to avoid becoming a trip hazard and to protect the cables and cords from physical and chemical contact damage. Okay, we see daisy chains when we're out there conducting inspections. You know, we see multiple coffee pots or coffee warmers, you know, that are daisy chains and all these trip hazards in people's workstations. That's a no-no. We will identify that in our inspection and our audit inspection. So summary. The IIPP helps maintain a safe and healthy work environment, right? That is the goal. Safety is a job requirement. It's not because, oh, we'll think about doing, maybe we'll do it, maybe I'll do it today and I won't tomorrow. No, again, we have to keep in mind that it is a requirement of us as employees, and we have an obligation to carry that requirement, you know, in good faith, carry that out. IIPP is found on the water board's intranet. We went over that. And again, health and safety unit are available through the email or a simple call. We are checking our voicemails, our landlines. So we're available on the Outlook. And most importantly, work safe because others count on you. Okay? Work safe. We want to get you guys home at the end of the day. And that's going to do it for me. I thank you very much. You guys have been great. Continue to be safe out there. And if there's any questions, again, please put those in the question and answers on the chat box. And I appreciate your time this afternoon, guys. Take care.
Hey, Veronica, we got a few questions. Can you hear me?
I can.
Where can we see your final report from last year? I take it they're asking about the building inspection report.
Those reports will be coming from either Lance or I as soon as possible. Again, we were wrapping up 2019, came into January, and things happened very quickly in February, and here we are with the COVID. So you guys will get those as soon as possible.
And when we do send them out, we send them to management and whoever else they tell us to send it to. So
correct.
Supervisor, where if that report is available. Second question is, are regions required to have safety coordinators? I'll give the answer to that one. Yes. And again, how regions do it is different. Some might have one coordinator for a variety of regions. Some might have a coordinator for each region. Again, ask the question of your supervisor, and if no forthcoming answer is given, let me know, because we have a list of safety coordinators for each region and division. And it looks like all the questions here. All right, so if something comes up, type a question in, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now.
Thanks, guys.
And again, just as a reminder, everybody make sure that you do the electronic sign-in, because if you don't do that, you're not attending this class. Because as far as Cal OSHA is concerned, if we don't have written documentation, you weren't here. So make sure you do that, and we'll get everything going there. And same with Veronica. If you got any questions after this, type it in the chat box, and we'll answer it. Even if we don't, we'll get to it. So what I'm about to talk about is hazard communication program. And what this is all about is talking about chemicals in the workplace. And for those of you who work with chemicals, this isn't going to be anything that you haven't heard before. Some of you are attending this class and you really don't work with chemicals, and you're thinking, "Why do I got to be here?" And like Veronica said, for the IIPP, part of it is because the regulations say you will be here. So you're going to be here and take this class. So it's part of a requirement. So, and plus, you have a right to know about any chemicals that are in the building. And if you need information about it, I need to know how to access that information. And it also a water board policy that requires training every 4 years for this class, whether it doesn't matter who you are, what your rank is, what your title is, you got to take this hazard communication training every 4 years. So topics we're going to cover is the written HazCom plan, what's in it, where is it, the responsibilities, and that's a common theme for health and safety. Veronica talked about your responsibilities. I'm going to talk about your responsibilities. And it's not because it's a special water board thing. The regulation says you will assign us responsibilities. So that's why we do that. We're going to talk about safety data sheets, labeling, and how to label containers that have chemicals in them. So what's the purpose of the written program? Is to communicate how to obtain hazard and safety information on chemical products that are in the building. And to communicate the availability of safety data sheets, and we'll talk about what those are for those of you guys who don't know, to employees, because you should have right to have access to any information on chemicals that are in your building. And we'll discuss labeling, what that looks like. We'll train staff regarding how hazard of chemicals and protective measures. So where's our written hazards communication? Same with the IIPP. If you go to our website, Waterboard Internet website, go to health and safety, and under programs and policies, right under the IPP, you'll see the 32-page HazCom program. And if you want some good reading that makes you go to sleep, read that thing. So, but again, like the IPP, we won't expect you guys to go through each and every word of it, but you do need to know where it is and information that's contained in it, because it will give you some good information about how to access information about chemicals. If you have any questions about that, contact your supervisor and hey, I don't know where the HazCom is. Where do I get a hold of it? Ask him or her, and they should be able to give you the information. And there should be somebody in your office, if you have chemicals, who is the hazard communication coordinator, i.e. they're kind of taking care of everything and making sure the safety data sheets are in place and where they need to be. So they should have the answer too. And if you can't get answers there, then give us a call and we'll help you out. Now, let's get into responsibilities. And just like Veronica was talking about, employees, supervisors, and we in health and safety have responsibilities as far as the hazard communication. And again, this is something we created in our heads. This is per the regulations. So it's not something that we can change. So we gotta go through this. So we have to know the plan, know where it is, kind of know what it's about. So if somebody asks you about HazCom, you should have an idea about what that's referring to. Okay, that's about chemicals and storage, and I can't remember anything else. That's fine. Just so you have a clue about what it is. It shouldn't be hazard communication. What's that? It shouldn't be that. That's when it becomes a problem. No location, a safety data sheets, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And the written plan, we already talked about that. How to read the labels and how to follow the instructions. And again, by the time we get done with this, you should have an idea about what an SDS is, safety data sheet, the labels, what's on it, and what those labels mean. Supervisors, wake up. For you guys should know the plan, dedicate resources to compliance. What that means is assign somebody in your staff to take care of the safety data sheets, chemical storage, things like that. Somebody needs to be assigned that, or else it just doesn't get done. Evaluate performance. Are they doing it okay? Assign staff to maintain safety data sheets, training. Supervisors, you're responsible for making sure your staff have the IIPP and the HazCom training done. That falls on you. And again, that's not something that we're saying. When Cal OSHA comes in and does a citation, the first person they ask for is a supervisor. They don't ask for Veronica. They don't ask for me. They don't ask for John Russell. They ask for you if something should happen. So that's why that's where that's placed. Health and safety. What's our responsibility? Provide assistance with the HazCom. Can't get any answers? Give us a call. We'll get it to you. Maintain a statewide plan. And again, our job is to update the HazCom policy. And matter of fact, we're doing that with this training, and the new one should be out in a couple of weeks. Nothing's going to change much. Inspection for compliances. And again, Veronica mentioned this. Every year we go out and do inspections, and we look at your labs and so forth, the chemical storage, and see if that's up to par. And at the end of this, I'll kind of give you a list of things that we're seeing that is somewhat common. Not as much anymore, but it used to be somewhat common. Perform training. If we do this training, and it used to be before COVID came along, if you wanted to do a training for your particular region, we would come out there and do it for you. And we could still do that, but we just do it online. So if you're doing a tailgate meeting, or you're doing your 3-month quarterly training and you want to talk about chemicals, don't feel like you have to do it, give us a call and we could do it for you. All right, let's go to what is not covered in the hazardous communication plan. And the reason this is important, because it seems like this stuff would be covered because it is chemicals. So pesticides aren't covered. Food, drugs, cosmetics aren't covered. And distilled spirits aren't covered. And the reason for that is there's other regulations that cover these things, so there's no reason for duplication. So the HazCom doesn't cover those things. Consumer products aren't covered. And consumer products are stuff like Windex, cleaning products, disinfectant wipes. And again, those have chemicals, but they're consumer products. Stuff you can buy at the store is not covered by the HazCom regulation. This is a good example. This glass cleaner. And again, it does have chemicals in it. As you can see, contains isopropyl alcohol on the picture on the right, ethylene glycol. Those are chemicals, and they could do some damage to you. But again, this is a consumer product, so it doesn't have a safety data sheet to go along with it. And the reason this is important for those of you guys who receive shipments in from orders, some things you may have SDSs for, some you may not. You need to know which ones you should and which ones you shouldn't. And again, 6 months from now, you're not gonna remember anything I said. And if you have any questions, give us a call and we can let you know if it should have an MSDS sheet or safety data sheet. Also, chemicals not covered. Hazardous waste, tobacco, lumber and wood products. And again, all these are covered under another regulation. And articles. What are articles? Articles are manufactured items that have a specific form or shape to it. For example, your mouse has plastic on it, has rubber on it, and other materials that could be off-gassing, but these aren't covered under the regulation as well. All right, how to get information about a chemical. The best place is to access the safety data sheet. And the safety data sheet is like a biographical sheet about that chemical. It tells you everything about it. It has 16 different sections just about that specific product. It tells you the name of it, the composition, first aid measures, you get exposed to it, what are you supposed to do? If it catches fire, firefighting measures, accidentally released, how do you clean it up? Where do you store it? How do you handle it? Exposure control. Look at section 11, toxicological information. What that is if you get exposed to it, it's going to tell you the kind of reaction that you might have by being exposed to it. So excellent information on the safety data sheet. So that should be the first place you go if you want to know information about a particular chemical, is the safety data sheet. So that's what that's all about. And again, for every chemical that we have in-house, we should have a safety data sheet associated with it. Sections 12 through 15, these are not regulated by Cal OSHA. And again, the reason for that is there's other regulations that pertain to that. For example, section 14, transport information, that'll be covered by DOT, Department of Transportation, so it doesn't need to be duplicated here. So sections 12 through 15 don't need to be covered by this regulation. All right, hazards, new types of hazards. A couple of years ago, they revised the HazCom regulation, and they added certain different categories. Pyrophoric hazards. What those are is if a substance gets in contact with the air, it's instantly gonna catch fire. That's what pyrophoric hazard is. Now, we shouldn't in the water board be dealing with anything like this. If we are, let me know, call me, and we need to talk about that. Combustibles, those are when enough dust is in the air that it can spontaneously explode. And again, we don't want to be working with that kind of stuff. Simple asphyxiants, that's like nitrogen, carbon dioxide. What those do is they replace the oxygen in your blood, so you basically suffocate. And HNOC, hazards not otherwise classified, that's like a catch-all for the chemicals that kind of fit in 2 or 3 categories, but they really don't fit in one that's good. It'll go into that category. How to obtain your safety data sheet. If you have chemicals in your area, you guys should have somebody who's maintaining a binder and has all the safety data sheets in there. So ask your supervisor for that, and they should know where it is. If not, again, there's some regions that may not. Let's talk about it and let's get you up to speed to where you need to be. But to ask your supervisor about it, and they should let you know, be able to tell you where your safety data sheet is. All right, let's talk about safety data sheets and how to maintain those, the documentation. So I said before that, and this is important, somebody needs to be designated responsible for obtaining and maintaining the safety data sheets. That's really the only way it's going to get done, because we get so busy running around. This could be something that's kind of fall through the cracks. It's not kept up. We need to describe how safety data sheets are maintained and how employees can access them. There should be a conversation you have in your region, within your group, is where do you guys keep them? Everybody should know about that. And how do you access them? They should know about that. Procedures of safety data sheets are not received with the first shipment. If you don't get your safety data sheet, then you call the distributor or the manufacturer and ask if they can send you the safety data sheet. Documentation must have safety data sheets for each chemical. Train workers on safety. Again, this is what we're doing right now. Safety data sheet format. But again, I can't tell you about your specific unit or region, how you guys are doing it. So again, that's why you need to ask the question. Archive safety data sheets no longer in use. And that's an important one, because a lot of times we see safety data sheets that are still in place, and we have stopped using the chemical about 10 years ago. We need to remove those out of the active chemical safety data sheet binder and archive them somewhere. We still need to keep them, just archive them so they're not in the same place as the safety data sheets that we're actually still using. Create an inventory list. This is the number one faux pas we see with safety data sheets. So here's the story. So with this binder, with every safety data sheet, on the first page, there has to be an inventory, one page that's listing all the chemicals that you have in your building that you're using, or in your lab that you're using. It has to be in that first page of that inventory list, and then behind that, all the associated safety data sheets. That's the number one thing we don't see when we go do our inspections is that inventory list is missing. And again, ensure staff know the location of the safety data sheets. And there's online resources that you can access to get the safety data sheets. And again, you can get them through your manufacturer, through the distributor, and you can give us a call and we can help you get the safety data sheets that you need as well. Let's talk about labeling. What's supposed to be on the labels on bottles when we have chemicals in them? Just keep in mind that, let's say in this bottle we put diluted bleach. It has to have a label on it. And it used to be in the past, we could just put the word bleach on it and that'd be good, we'd be good to go. Can't do that anymore. Gotta put the particular information on it. Only one exception to the rule when you do not have to put a label on a container. And that's if you're gonna use the entire content in that container right now. It's not gonna last all day. It's not gonna last overnight. You're gonna use it right now and it's gonna be gone. That's the only time you don't have to label the container. So, documentation for labeling. Again, going back to the designated person responsible for that. And we can describe alternatives to labeling the stationary process contains. What that is if we have chemicals in a certain spot and it's stationary, it's never gonna move because the process is right in one location, it's not gonna change. We can put signs and labeling on the machine itself. It doesn't have to be on the container itself, just as long as we know if it's stationary to warn people about what content is there that they're dealing with. Ensure all workplace containers are labeled appropriately, and we'll talk about that. And procedures for reviewing and updating workplace labels. And again, it's kind of a tedious thing, but again, the regulations say we have to do this. Now this right here is an example of a label. And this is what you'll see from the distributor that you'll get in. And we'll talk about what all these things mean. But here's what I need you to lock in on. If you see something like this, bells and whistles should go off. Say, I don't know what's in there, but this is telling me that there's something hazardous in there to me. So I need to treat this carefully. When you see this, that should go through your mind. Now let's go through what all these things mean. So at the bottom, you'll see the information about the name of the address, telephone number of the manufacturer or distributor. The top product identifier to tell you what it is. This is bleach. This is sulfuric acid, or it's going to tell you exactly what it is. And you'll have a signal word. It's going to be either danger or warning. If it's danger, it's considered more severe as far as the hazard. If it's warning, it's not as dangerous, but you still need to be aware that it could cause you harm. And you'll have a picture. This red diamond with black symbol in the middle that'll tell you what's up. This one is pretty obvious, it's flammable, but that kind of tells you information about the hazard itself. So this is kind of what a label looks like. Now let's talk about those symbols, the red diamond with the picture in the middle, there's 9 potential symbols you will see. And we'll go over these pretty quick. So the man with the star exploding in his chest, that's a carcinogen, mutagen, reproductive toxicity, respiratory sensitivity, target organ toxicity. Look at those hazards associated with that. If you see something like that, you need to ask yourself, do I need to be dealing with this chemical? Because that does that could do some damage if you get exposed to it. Flammable, that's pretty obvious right there. Now, look at that one, exclamation point. When I first saw this, I said, okay, somebody yelling at me or something. So, but what this is, again, this goes to the situation where some chemicals don't fit into a particular category. So they kind of put it on this one, and that's where you get the exclamation point. So that's what that is. And here's another one. When I saw this, I thought, that's a spatula. What is that indicating? But what this is indicating, this is a gas cylinder under pressure, like those nitrogen cylinders that blow up balloons. Those are under a whole lot of pressure, sometimes 1,500 pounds per inch, 2,000. And for some reason, the thing falls over and the regulator comes off. It's like a rocket. It'll go through the walls, it'll go through you, and it becomes a serious hazard. So when you see that, that's what that's indicating. Corrosive, something gets on your hand, it's going to burn it right then and there. Exploding bomb, explosive, self-reacting, organic peroxides. Man with the hair on fire, that is an oxidizer. And the thing about oxidizer, it has a lot of oxygen on it, so you don't want to store an oxidizer with a flammable, because that's a bad combination. It just encourages more of a fire. Now look at that. That's another one. I looked at that, I'm like, what is that? I said, oh, that's a tree in the background and a fish? It's like, wow, they could have done better with this drawing. But this is for environmental stuff, and it's not something that OSHA regulates, and that's more EPA and so forth, and so they don't address those. Skull and crossbones, we all know what that is. That means if you get exposed to it, it's gonna hurt you right now. All right, I want to go back to labeling for a minute. So the one on the left, the picture on the left, that's kind of what you'll see from the manufacturer or the distributor. And again, I know it's kind of hard to read the numbers below, but number 1 is a product identifier, 2 is a signal word, that danger or warning. Number 3 is a hazard statement, what's in it, precautionary statement, and a picture. The one on the right, and I hope you guys are seeing it the same way I'm seeing it, is kind of the label we'll see if we put it in a secondary bottle. So if we take that bleach, put it in a secondary bottle, the one on the right is kind of what we'll see as far as the label. And again, you can get these from the manufacturer, the distributor, in various ways, and we'll kind of hit that real quick too. Other labels you might see, just kind of go over this real quick. National Fire Protection Association. You'll see this diamond deal. And again, if you see it, what you need to remember is, okay, there's something that's hazardous in here. It could be harmful to me. I need to be careful. And they use the color code system. Blue means health hazard. Red means flammable hazard. Instability hazard for yellow. And again, it uses a number system, 0 to 4. 0 is normal stability. 4 is highly dangerous. And then they got a special category for other hazards. So just for an example, you'll see something like this. You'll see number 2 in the blue, health hazard's not that bad. You'll see number 4 in the red is a high flammability, and then the 0, and then you'll see the W with the cross in it. That means it's not compatible with water. So, and again, for us you guys don't deal with this every day, you don't see it, but again, what I'm wanting you to get out of that is if you see it, then you know it's a hazard and you need to kind of stay away from it, be careful, because it could cause harm. And here's another symbol you might see. And the top is a product identifier, and then there's different numbers and letters associated with the health, flammability, physical hazard, personal protection. For example, you have 1 to 0. Again, 0 is no hazard. 4 is life-threatening. And then you'll have an asterisk. Second phase, Second place, it signifies chronic health hazard. And again, we don't expect you to memorize this or to remember this, but just so if you see this label, you know there's something of concern there that you need to be aware about. Flammability, physical hazard, and then right here is a legend and have ABC through X, and it'll tell you the kind of PPE that you'll need to work in this area. So this is more for fire hazardous waste responders and firemen and that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff they really need to do their work. So you might see something like that, ammonia hydroxide, and has all the information on it that's needed. How to obtain labels? No great easy way to do this. I think the best way is the first two bullets. Request labels from the manufacturer or request it from the distributor. Other than that, you can purchase a label maker. You make your own label through Avery, but that you got to jump through hoops to get that done. Or if they send you some extra shipping labels, it has more information that's needed on the secondary container, but you can still use that as your labels. So those are probably the best ways to kind of get to it. The first two would be the first crack I would use to get those labels. Most common waterborne discrepancies we see pertaining to hazard communication, old chemical storage for years. If you guys have a lab, or you know you have chemicals that have been sitting there for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, we need to deal with those. Because what's going to happen is it's sitting there and eventually it's going to eat through its container and cause a hazard. We had 2 situations where we had to evacuate buildings because of that very thing. So, and again, in this atmosphere we're in right now, it's kind of hard to get those things removed quickly, but we still need to know about it. You need to know about it, and we need to put something in motion to get those things removed. So if you got old chemicals, you know, we need to deal with that. No inventory list on the safety data sheets. I talked about that. Bottles aren't labeled, or they're labeled and they're labeled incorrectly, or they just have bleach or sulfuric acid and that's it, and that's inappropriate. No one assigned to safety data sheet responsibilities, and old safety data sheets are not archived. Those are the main ones we see when we go do inspections of your buildings. But that number 1 and number 2 are the big ones. And number 3 are the big ones. Exposure. If you guys believe you've been exposed to a chemical as a result of your work, get to a safe place. If it's an air exposure, get to fresh air. Don't go back in the area. Seek any medical attention. Tell your supervisor that you've been exposed. But the first thing you want to do is make sure you're safe and get the medical attention that you need, and then contact your supervisor. All right, today we talked about the written plan, regulations, labeling, safety data sheets, and your responsibilities. So, with the questions, I am going to
Lance?
Yeah.
Looks like people are interested in getting copies of the PowerPoint presentations.
Yeah, the PowerPoint presentations, we'll be posting those on the health and safety webpage. And we'll also post the recording on the health and safety webpage. So what you can do is you can look next week and all the stuff should be on our health and safety webpage. Are you seeing any more questions on there, Veronica? Are you looking there? Or?
Yes, sorry, Lance, I had you on mute. Yes, I am looking. So we've got something from Bonnie Breedy. If we want to, Dustin, for example, bleach into a smaller bottle, what is the minimum info I need to put on the bottle? Do I need to draw the pictogram?
The best thing to do is to get a sticker which has the information on it. So again, if you're taking the bleach from a bottle and put it in another bottle, what I would do is go back to distributor and ask, do you guys have bleach, stickers we can put on here? And most likely they'll have some that can send it to you, or the manufacturer. And if that doesn't work, then yeah, then we're kind of getting into stuff where there's a variety of ways to get to it. I can't cover them all right here and there, but if we want to talk about that, give us a call, send us an email.
Let's see here. So for the staff that weren't able to attend this training, will they be able to receive credit after viewing the recording?
They can, and that goes back to if staff are viewing the recording, the supervisor needs to make sure they actually view the recording, they understand the content, and again, I believe this is correct. We probably should talk to Training Academy. But if they're viewing the recording after the fact, is to sign a sign-in sheet and then fax it or scan it and send it to the Training Academy so they can actually get credit for it.
Cool. Let's see, any other? I think that's the main ones, Lance. Maxine. Oh.
I see a question. Who's the safety coordinator for Region 4? And that's LA, right? I think if that's LA, this is Pooja.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, 4.
All right, for staff that were unable, yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, so not seeing any more questions, and we're kind of a little bit after. So make sure you do the electronic sign-in, and this is your training for HazCom and IIPP for the next 4 years. You're done. Yay! And again,
yay!
Those who didn't get it, pass the word that we're going to put this recording on our website as long as the PowerPoint material, and they can view it anytime. You guys got any questions, give us a call, and we'll hide under the desk when we see the phone ring.
You guys stay safe out there.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, guys.
You still there, Veronica?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, Lance, I'm here. Hold on. Let me call you from my phone, okay?
Okay.
For my landline.
Okay, thank you. Bye. Stay safe out there, everybody.
Hey, Karen, look at you, Karen. Check you out.
No.
Now you're bragging. What's up with that?
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Karen, where are you?
I think she just logged off. Oh, there she is. Karen, you're on mute. There she is.
Okay.
Where are you, Karen?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Karen, where are you? You look like you're in Mexico.
Oh,
Man.
yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Well, yeah, that's to prevent chin.
So Karen, we can barely hear you.
Yeah,
We can barely hear you.
Yeah, I don't want chin action. I haven't taken the training on how to look like.
Oh, can't hear you, Karen.
Man, that's where we need to be.
Wherever you are, Karen, that's where Lance and I need to be.
All right, I'm logging off here.
Okay. Hey, Lance, I'll call you. Have fun, Karen, wherever you're at. Stay safe.
I need to stop this recording first.